Welcome to the Alien Probe podcast. It's a sad day today. We're observing Dr. Bill's rest in peace, and it's not Dr. Bill's retiring. Bill passed away in his sleep on January 20th of this year, as a surprise to all of us. Bill was not in bad health. We don't understand. Seems like it might be a heart attack. He was born in 1959. I won't give you the exact date because Bill wouldn't appreciate me giving any details, So I've got Robert here. Welcome, Robert.
Hello.
Thanks for joining me, our executive producer, Hollywood, Robert Anthony. How's the, how's it going down there?
It's good. It's hot, but it is sad, of course, mourning the passing of Dr. Bill. I'm a little shocked, I think, as everyone was. Didn't really seem like anything was wrong with him, it was, sucks. I'm a little unhappy.
I've got some observations on Bill that I kind of jotted down during the week, and I wanted to talk about him. We're going to shy away. Everyone that's around me, like at work and things, is they're obviously surprised. They enjoyed a lot of the comments that I get. Oh, he talks too much and he never lets you talk. And Bill was a very important part of this project. So I know in the beginning I started talking about, I can do it on my own, and you said, okay, record yourself for an hour doing a show and let me know how it sounds. And it sounded like shit. So I said, I'm going to need to have some help. So we've rounded up some people. We're not stopping. I know we discussed, are we going to still do this? And we're going to still continue doing it. And I know you and I are going to talk about simulation theory. We're going to reserve that for us at some point in the future.
All right.
And, but I just want to say a few things about Bill. I grew up with Bill. I've known Bill since the second grade. That's 57 years. We met, our families kind of hung out together. When I say hung out, it was my single dad and his single mom, and some others around. They had a house up in good old Castro Valley that we know and love. And when I say hung out, I mean they got shit-faced. And then we went into the backyard. Castro Valley was a small community, and when it started, it was just a bunch of chicken. I don't know if you knew. You probably knew this. It was chicken ranches all over the place.
Yeah.
So they had a big chicken coop in the back. These folks had chicken coop in the back of their house, so they would unleash us to go, and it was gigantic. I mean, they didn't have any chickens. They bought a house with a chicken coop on the property. So Bill's mom insisted that he and his sister Charlotte call my dad Mr. Anthony, which I thought was interesting. And we used to tease his sister. I used to tease his sister just mercilessly. I mean, she hated us. And when she called, and when Charlotte's daughter, I called Charlotte's daughter when I got the news because I had the information, and she called her mom, which is Bill's sister, and all Bill's mom said was, Bill's sister said was, he's a brat. He had to go first. Bill was a brat, and a little bit quirky, as we know, but I was too. We were a lot alike, and made us brothers for 57 years. We had a lot of adventures growing up together. Many I can't tell publicly though. So there's a few. During a hard rainstorm, we went to the local golf course and slid around on the flooded greens with our bicycles, and we were just having fun. We weren't doing it to ruin the greens. We just were sliding around, and the Rangers showed up.
Oh, no. Did you guys get in trouble?
We had to go to court.
Oh my God.
And we had to pay a fine and restitution because we ruined the greens.
Oh, wow. I bet your dad was thrilled with that.
He was thrilled. He was very thrilled. Yeah, you didn't know my dad, but we'll be talking about him a little later too. So Bill worked for me on various. I don't know if you knew this. Bill worked for me in various places I managed while he was in school, so it kind of supported his. He worked for me part time doing the different jobs. We were together during the Challenger disaster down, and we were working together in San Leandro, and it was sad, But I remember who I was. We were there together. It was just us two in the little. It was a little warehouse and a distributor we worked for. Bill was not a very good employee. Sometimes he seemed to make a lot of mistakes, and I would yell at him for it in my early manager days. Because I was a yeller when I was younger, and yet I would always keep him. I would never hesitate to hire him. I would always. I liked having my friend there with me, and he did a good. He was a little sloppy at times, but he was good and reliable, and I appreciated that. Bill and I once worked at his mom's. One of the places she worked was we were entering heat numbers for nuclear reactor fuel rod grids.
Oh my God.
I hope that turned out okay. I'm not sure. Bill had to be there because I couldn't figure out how to boot up the computer because it was like one of those C comma backslash, back in that was even way before your.
That's DOS.
DOS. That's what Deb says because that's a DOS thing. I go, yeah. Bill would always have to open my combination lock when I first got into PE in junior high too. I couldn't figure out how that plus by zero thing with the combination thing. I could never figure it out. To this day, not to this day, Bill said he was helping me with things. He was helping me with, getting. I still don't have the. I have to figure out the layering on OBS to get the illustration on the. Because he figured that out, and so I got to work with. There's a couple things I got to work with to get that Bill left before he showed me how to do.
Oh no!
No, it's easy. It's easy. I'll have to figure it out. I'll Google it. Bill was not very athletic. I don't know if you knew that.
He's pretty skinny though for a non-athlete.
Yeah, he was in good shape, and that was one of the things that surprised us when he left. Is that he out of the group of us. He was in good shape, didn't drink. Another thing is he doesn't drink. Never drank. Or he did, but I mean, every once in a while you have a beer, but, nothing serious.
Yeah.
But Bill was always up for a challenge. Bill, I was as you know, I was a motorcycle rider when I was younger. And Bill thought he needed a motorcycle also, so he bought a Kawasaki Z1900, a 1975 to start with, which is a great starter bike. Not.
Seems a little big. Seems a little big to start on.
I offered to help teach him to ride, but he didn't want to ride bitch and insisted on trying it himself. So he lived on a hill up in Castro Valley. And he lived on this hill, so he shoved off and rode toward the bottom of the hill, and I was trailing him, and he got to the bottom, and he slowed down okay. So I felt better. He got it wound down without pressing the front brake first and things. Oh. And he didn't lean into the corner. He kind of just turned he was going rather slow, but he went to turn and he just turned the bars instead of leaning and turning. And he crashed into a VW Bug, tearing the antenna off and crashing the bike. And I sat there laughing hysterically because it looked so funny. It was like this slow motion incident as he rolled off this VW. The antenna's hanging there. He's all skinned up, and I'm laughing. Oh, you are. Of course, I'm between crying and laughing. I'm asking him if he's okay. Did you break anything? He was fine. He later sold that bike to me. It was a pretty awesome bike. But I rode it to work one day, and I let some guy ride it that he kept badgering me to ride it, and I'm just like, yeah, okay, go ahead, go take it for a ride. Don't kill yourself. And he brought it back, so I went to leave. I worked a little later, and it was dark, and it didn't start. I swear to this day, I think he did something to it. And
Really?
So I left it. The manager there said that, or the DM said, the district manager said, you can put it in the. It was Friday. It was a Friday, so you can put it in the warehouse. And I said, no, I don't want it stuck in here all weekend. I want to pick it up and get it running. So, I had a hard time. I had a hard time riding it initially, anyway, because your mom broke my pinky finger.
Oh, nice. How'd she do that?
She had picked me up for work one day, and she, you were in the back seat. Let me tell horrifying stories, mother. This will be the only one. And then she kept turning the radio up loud, and I kept turning it down. And finally, I took the knobs, I turned it down, took the knobs off the radio, and threw them out the window. And she grabbed my pinky and snapped it. Bah.
Damn.
I wasn't planning on telling that story, kind of off the Dr. Bill track, but it related to that bike because I had a real hard time shifting it because I couldn't. I finally had to have a cast on it later. Anyway, so we left it at work. She picked me up. Middle of the night, I get a phone call. Well, I guess the bike got set on fire at the warehouse.
Why would they set the bike on fire? Why would they do that?
I don't know. I don't know. It just somebody set the bike on fire. So Bill says, "Hey, the cops are here." He goes, "Couple things. The cops were here, and the bike's on fire." I go, "They're on their way to your house now." So he promptly told. I didn't change the registration into my name. I'd just gotten it, and so they thought it was an insurance job, and it was detectives. It's weird. Back in the day, it was like they sent. So two detectives show up at my door. I'm ready. And they come in to sit down. They got their notepads. And I go, that bike's not even insured. It'd be hard to do an insurance job on a bike that's not insured. So they packed up their little notepads and left. So better luck next time, I say to them. My dad was kind of a disciplinarian. Bill and I would be, I don't know, we would do that. I think we did that with you a few times, where you go somewhere and then you take a friend to, go to a museum or go somewhere. Well, they had this place called, were you ever at Frontier Village? Down in San Jose? Did you ever go there?
I don't think
It's
so.
since been torn down many years ago. We'd go to Frontier Village, and Bill and I, Bill would be the friend, my dad and my mom, my stepmom, and then my brother, and he would bring a friend. And so my brother's about 5 years younger than me. And so we go in, Frontier Village had those wide sidewalks, that had the wide sidewalks of Old West style, where they were wide and wood,
Yeah.
So we were in a gift shop, and my brother kept screwing around, and my dad's like, hey, you didn't screw around with my dad, because, I always tell this story when I talk to younger people today who have kids about corporal punishment. So my brother kept screwing around. He got a couple. I will give it to my dad. He gave him quite a few warnings, and Bill and I are like, Bill knew too, because Bill wouldn't come away unscathed either if we were messing around. So we knew not to screw around. So we were just shopping very quietly, and my brother's messing with stuff and running around. Things my dad didn't. My dad was 6'2". He had a flat top at the time, and he was in good shape. And he was a top turret gunner on a B-17, and he was a master sergeant in the Air Force, and really not used to taking any shit. So he grabs my brother by the arm, and he marches him out to the middle. Have you heard this story?
No.
He marches him out to the middle of this wooden sidewalk thing that's by this gift store, and starts whipping his ass. So he's in the middle of doing that, and this guy walks up to him and says, hey, aren't you being a little hard on the kid? And my dad stops and says, you're next. Bill and I are just laughing hysterically at this whole thing. They thought it was so funny, and he's looking at us. They had to go, whoa, just laughing at the situation. I don't know. But yeah, we would be screwing, but we limited our screwing around when around Dad. You know, Bill built, was a 67 Camaro? I don't know which one he
Yeah,
had.
yeah,
He built, well, no,
yeah.
you probably didn't see that thing, or at least not that you remember. You might have been over there because he built it up at the Castro Valley house. And the motor was bad. I mean, he had the motor out. I mean, he did the whole motor. With another friend helped him. And I was not really around a lot, but he took me for a ride in it, and he headed up. And Bill's, he's like a scholar. You don't really think of Bill as the engine builder and the things that he did, and I think it's important that I talk about that. He's
Yeah.
not, he's not a bookworm like the show might make him seem. Not at all. So he was into cars. And he took me up Redwood Road. It was up by the high school, and there was like a set of 3 lights. You probably remember as you drive
Yeah.
up Redwood.
Yeah.
He had that thing going. I don't know how fast he was going. I was not looking at the speedometer. I was scared to death. It was a 4-speed, and every time he'd shift, I get slammed back into the seat. It was crazy fast. And he ran 3 solid red lights going up Redwood Road. I mean, we could have been killed. This is how it
Yeah.
happens. It's like, but Bill was showing me what that engine could do. I don't think he ever raced it or anything. He should have taken it up to Fremont and saw how fast it was. I think he obviously ended up selling it.
Yeah.
Bill also bought a Packard. He was kind of a car guy. He bought a Packard, which is more kind of like a car that I would think Bill would buy. And the Packard was old. I don't know what year it was, but it was big. And it was in his garage. And
Yeah.
I remember the glass was cracked. A lot of the panes of glass. And so he was proud of the fact that he found the glass. Now, bear in mind, this isn't point and click and 2 days from Amazon stuff. This is,
Right.
you're in a catalog looking at old car glass stuff.
Right.
So he, proud of the fact that he found the glass. So he got the glass and then he put it inside the car, and that's where it stayed for years. Nothing, it didn't do anything. So his mom's always complaining because at least I got a place to put my laundry, because she just put it on the hood. He was, but he had it garage, and finally he sold that. I don't know if you remember. Bill had he had a blue Toyota pickup in 1980. We both bought new trucks in '86. That's how I can remember what year his was. But he put at least 200,000 miles on that thing,
Wow.
and it was rusty. He had taken it. I think he drove it back and forth to Chicago, because he was, that's where he ended up getting his PhD. It was great. And I went to his graduation there. But he bought that thing new, and by God, he was going to get his money's worth. He was cheap. Bill was kind of cheap. I mean, he would get stuff. I remember when I got my Mac, he was mortified at the amount of money I spent on it. You can get that used, and I'm going, I'm not going to buy. I don't want to buy a used computer,
Yeah.
which I still don't use, by the way. So
That's
he,
the Mac Mini.
yeah, I still got the Mac. It's loaded too. I think I'm gonna put it in the game room and use it for editing or something. Much to Debbie's chagrin, I'm sure. I got computers everywhere. So he bought the thing new, but somebody backed into him one time and put a little dent. I mean, it was significant, but not huge, And back by the tailgate, above the tail light or below it
Yeah.
or something. And he basically stood on that body shop guy's desk and told him, "You will not use Bondo. You will pound that out and you will put lead in it. You will not put Bondo on my truck." And he was so proud of the story of how he made them put lead in that. He put lead in the Bondo instead of Bondo on his truck. So he was a Marine. He was in the Marines. I don't know if you knew that. He was a Marine Reserve. He didn't. I asked him a couple weeks ago. That are you one of those guys that you were once a Marine and like you're going to be a Marine till you die? It's one of those things. You're always a Marine. He says, I don't know. It was because he was in the reserves. He wasn't a regular. He was on active duty, but he was on active duty at up at one of the other facilities. He didn't do. He was like me. I had to go places every once in a while, but in this country,
Right.
you
Right.
know. He never dogged me for just being in the National Guard. He could have. I was a Marine and you were in the Army, and it doesn't
Yeah.
count.
Right.
He never did that. He's like, I was just in something he did. He was in Dugway. So, that thing that you always get the notices for if you were ever in Dugway, I think it was Dugway. You can get, actually got covered under, he was there during those times. On
Camp
active,
Lejeune.
no,
Oh, that's the one I keep seeing.
no, Lejeune, he was also in Lejeune. Dugway is where he was in those two places.
Oh,
Lejeune was also in Lejeune. Yeah, that's the other one. This is the one, but he got medical coverage for being at Lejeune during this time frame.
yeah. I see commercials all the time on the History Channel saying, "Were you in Camp Lejeune?"
Oh, online,
I don't know.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he did a lot of stuff. He worked on the radar for missile launches and things. It's an interesting job. He was pretty smart. Just ask him. Bill was an elitist. He was an accomplished elitist. Bill, you know, he had a
Yeah.
PhD in, I think, virology. He was an assistant professor at the University of Florida. The Gators. The Gators. So, he loved to shoot handguns. I mean, a lot of these things, I think people will be surprised.
Yeah.
And he took a few training classes out of state. Yeah, he invited me to some, but I really didn't want to go to Montana and do pistol shooting for 3 days. You know what I mean? It just didn't seem. It didn't seem like. And I was horrible. When I was in the Army, I was great at rifles,
Hmm.
but horrible at pistol shooting. Every time I would go shoot the pistol to qualify, it's like they were mortified at the lack of accuracy that I exhibited. I go, I don't know. I don't know. You need to wear your glasses. So he frequently shot at his local range. And he had a CCW, his concealed weapons permit. Some people might be surprised at that too. And he would carry a gun.
You just carried a gun around?
I believe he carried a gun with him around.
Oh, that's crazy.
I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming so. He had the CCW, so maybe I don't know. Maybe he got it just to carry. I don't know, because you can carry a gun to the range. You don't need a CCW. But
Yeah.
he thought that was important to have. He always tried to get me to get it, and I thought probably not the best idea for me to be carrying a gun around with me all the time. You know,
Yeah. I always
it's
felt the same.
you
Too much of
know.
a temper.
Well, yeah, I don't really have that much of a temper, but it could get to the point where and it's just going to
You're
go
just
bad.
like, you know what? And you just shoot the guy.
Well, they had a situation here right when I moved up to the Sacramento area where there was a road rage incident over by in Rancho Cordova,
Uh-huh.
and a guy he shot. They pulled over. They were having words, and the guy killed the guy right there. And of course, they sent him to jail, and then he got out on bail for whatever reason. He got on bail. The guy that killed the other guy, he went to the same off ramp and shot himself. He felt so bad about the whole thing. It was a horrible story. And that story kind of stuck with me. I'm like, yeah, really don't want
Yeah.
anything like that to happen. It's just not a good idea. During Trump's presidency, he was a huge supporter.
That surprised me.
Yeah, he was huge. And he would make the mistake of badgering my wife, Debbie, about it during a visit. Because, it's a very polarizing, the topic. You know what I mean? It's very
Yeah.
I stay out of it. I just don't. Everybody it's hugely polarizing, and it doesn't pay off. I mean, we can go on and on about who's the one that gets the most aggravated about their position, but it's a bad thing. And Bill had a habit of not letting things go. even
Yeah.
after a warning, which only made things worse. Because if you tell Bill, that that bugs me or something, oh, it's on after that. He, you know, so then after Debbie, he would just keep telling Debbie about all the good things that Trump was doing. There's the wall, there's this, there's that, he's doing awesome. And he wouldn't. I said, dude, just stop. Yeah, she doesn't care about the wall. She doesn't care, She cares about all the bad things. And it's like, finally she just ran out into the backyard. She's so mad. I go, so how'd that work out for you, buddy? He admittedly said he would not be a very good liberal. I go, yeah, I do have to agree. He married and had a son. He only had one. We only had one child. They named him from a character from a book, and I remember my ex and I talking about that because his wife kept her maiden name. That was a topic of discussion for last week when we were in Florida about women that get married and just keep their name. It's not a thing now, really. I mean, it is a thing and it isn't a thing,
Yeah.
And my ex is a very traditional, you take the man's name, you give your kids his name also. And, it was just kind of, and we always thought, what's going to happen when they pick him up from school? Of course, nothing ever happened, I'm sure. You just tell them. We're all the same family. But I remember it was a huge topic of discussion about the name. I'm pretty sure it was never a problem. Bill was in both my first and second weddings.
Nice.
How could I leave him out, right? We were also in our friend Steve's first wedding also. We drank lots of Stoli the night before that one. Over in, remember Sean Bigham? I know you remember him. So we were at Sean's house and we were drinking Stoli. I remember we were discovering that if we put Stoli in the freezer, it won't freeze. But it becomes really cold and drinkable, nicely drinkable. We were drinking, I know we were drinking shots. We weren't,
Oh.
we were drinking shots of Stoli. And I remember, so I've got pictures of Bill the next morning because we went to breakfast over to Doug's place, the restaurant.
I remember that place.
Yeah, the omelet place. But he was holding his head in his hands. He was so hungover. It was horrible. I woke up that morning because I walked from Sean's house and I walked across his apartment because mine was across the way. And I felt the sunlight bathing across me. When I woke up, I was tangled in lounge chair furniture from the pool. I had stepped, how it's got those skinny nylon things that,
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I apparently for some unknown reason.
You woke up stuck in the.
Yeah, I was tangled, passed out and tangled in all the yard furniture. And I couldn't, it took me the longest time to find out how to get out of this furniture, So I finally found my way out, and of course my wife, she figured I just passed out over there. Yeah, I could figure you guys just couldn't. I go, no, I tried to get home. I just didn't make it. So yeah, and we would get in trouble because we would do stupid things. At one of the weddings, we had the bride's, might have been her great grandmother. You probably heard this story before, where we, she was walking up and she was really elderly. She was kind of bent over and she had a cane and she was walking by. And someone said, "And you thought Yoda was dead?" And we turn around and the camera's right there in her face. They were videotaping it. So we watched it later, and luckily they cut it out. Nothing was ever said about that again, thankfully. Of course, we thought it was hysterical, but of course, it was classless. what you do when you're young.
Yeah.
You know, Bill bought over 100 UFO, UAP, and alien abduction books. He used to go to the library. There was a library they would have a library sale. And they would, you get, for $1 or less, you get these books. Well, they would have sections of UFO books. I mean, he had to keep track of what he had already, so he would double up on the UFO books that he would buy. So he would do research for the podcast. He was really good because he was retired. He got a chance to do a lot of reading. You know, since I'm working, I didn't have a great deal of time. We did a lot of stuff with links to articles and things, and we like to do things that were topical and new, because you get guys, Jeremy Corbell. I don't know if you know Jeremy Corbell, and he's got the other guy that does George Knapp, who's got, they've got a new podcast, and they just resurrect the old stories like Bob Lazar that they've told 100 times. It's like they don't have any. They've done it. They're doing a new podcast to dredge up because they're popular, and they'll monetize. This isn't we're not monetizing. This is a hobby. So it's like I still try to keep it topical and new.
Yeah.
But they just talk about the same things. But we would talk about that. I said it's just not worth watching because it's the same stuff they've talked about, and only they're doing it for money, so they're just something to talk about. And so we try not to do that. When we were growing up, he liked his favorite Star Trek character was Spock, and mine was Kirk. And it was kind of interesting that when we grew up, that he became, I wouldn't say a nerd because he's pretty well rounded, but he was as more of a scholar like Spock would be, and I became a leader. Most of the things I've done, I've led people, and I like to make, and it's funny because I don't do it much anymore, but I'll, take chances and risks, so that I can be successful. And it's kind of funny because that's like Kirk did. So we was kind of like, we watched Star Trek. We kind of grew up to be who our favorite characters were, more or less,
Yeah.
We did APP for 2 years. I know you know that. We did for 2 years. He didn't want to come on camera in the beginning because he thought it would ruin his reputation. And I said, that's fine. I'll put me on camera and you can do audio only. Well, of course, Bill's ego would never allow that. Bill wanted to be on. He goes, if I'm going to be on, I'm going to be on. I go, okay, you don't have to, though. Remember, this isn't for money. It's, it's whatever you want to do. We're doing it for fun. We had a plan to get an RV and make an Alien Pro Podcast magnetic banner and put it on a couple of magnetic banners to slap on the side of it, because Deb's aunt and uncle have a couple RVs. So we were going to borrow one. We were going to go to White Sands, Roswell, Area 51, Skinwalker Ranch, and just kind of not go in because we can't go in, but just go there. And, you stop in the area and just chat to people about the podcast and what we're doing. And we're not really going to think we were going to drum up much business, but just people, we were going to interview and record and use it for the show.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'll probably still do that. It's going to be hard for me to do it now, but I think we might be able to get it done. Bill loved Travis Taylor. Do you know who he is? He's Travis Taylor. And Bill used to do, he's the scientist on The Secret. He's a scientist, moreover. I don't want to say he's a scientist on The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, which he is, but mostly, moreover, he's a respected scientist, and he is pretty good. And our followers would comment on Bill's impression of Travis Taylor, because he would do that. Every time you talk Travis Taylor, he'd use the Travis Taylor. That Travis Taylor.
I know who you're talking about.
I'm Travis Taylor, and there's something over my bed when I went to sleep. And that's what he'd be all excited. And Bill wrote a 2,000-word essay on the defense of Travis Taylor. And Travis would get blasted for his involvement on the for his involvement as a scientist on the Skinwalker Ranch show. You know, because we didn't believe that it's a thing. It was a hoax. We believe it's a hoax. We believed
Yeah.
it was a hoax. We still believe. I still believe it's a hoax, and I'll continue watching it and continue to degrade it when I watch it on whatever episode I happen to be. After they do an episode, I'll watch it. I make Debbie watch it, you know. And this some of what was good with Bill is he debunked some of the scientific methods they did and said that they weren't thorough, you know, in their they weren't thorough in their scientific, exploits that they're doing, you know.
Yeah.
So our friend Steve made all the arrangements for, I think we talked a little bit about this, for me and Deb, and he and his lovely wife Debbie, and my ex-wife joined us as well, which was kind of,
Tough.
yeah, it was kind of hard. So we went there and we stayed, Steve got a B&B house, and, Steve arranged for all the, he arranged for things, and it was nice, but it was hard. I went there and I saw his side of the podcast. I just couldn't get myself to sit in there, but I didn't want to touch anything. It was weird. It was just so sad, so unexpected. I know for people who, I don't want to go on and on about it, but it was so sad and unexpected. And that's the one thing that everybody kind of just says, whoa, I don't believe that. I've got a guy that came on locally that saw a UFO locally, and I contacted him because I wanted him to come back on, and he says that's unbelievable. He goes, he was just starting to be funny. I go, yeah, he was loosening up. It only took 200 episodes. But he always thought he did great. He always did great. But the show will go on, as they say. I don't know what you remember of him, and I appreciate you, coming on, but I didn't think it would be right, to go on with the show without, kind of wrapping up that portion of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 I'm sorry. I know it must be. I know the past few weeks have been really rough on you for a myriad of ways. Um, I know that he was your best friend and he was around as far back as I can remember. It was really
Yeah.
weird, getting that call from you. And I've been thinking about it a lot. Just that mortality, like we always kind of go through when someone close to us passes. And yeah, it sucks.
It's been
Very,
it's the worst since my dad died. It's bizarre.
yeah,
You know what I mean? My stepmom he's passed away, but she had dementia and she was going through that for the longest time. So when it finally happened, it was bad, but it wasn't. I think it's because it was unexpected, and he really was the last one we thought was going to have a problem.
yeah.
You know?
And you recording these with him week in and week out, and then just all of a sudden he's gone. I mean, that is a blessing though, because you have so many episodes of you to go back
Yeah.
and relive your friendship and how you guys interacted. It's pretty cool.
Well, with my, one of the reasons I started this, because I remember you orchestrated this whole thing and got it set up for me, and thank you again. But is that I can't remember what my dad's voice sounded like. It's weird.
Yeah.
So I thought, something for the kids, because this will stay around in some form
Yeah.
for a while, even after I'm gone. So I want the kids, you guys, to be able to, I don't want you to forget at least what I sound like, even though I'm dorky. And I do this. Nobody has given me a hard time. I expected when I started this that a lot of people would give me a hard time about it. There's people, they don't really say anything. The people that just don't say anything, I know inside are going, oh, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But most people are like, yeah, it's kind of interesting. You're able to do this and be able to bring the the whatever local latest facts are. You know, especially I'm going to go to MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, I think, and we have a local chapter up in Rockland. And I'll probably invite anybody who wants to come. I'll probably go to a meeting, and that's my meeting. And you know, see if anybody wants to come on, invite them down, or go on Discord or whatever they feel comfortable doing. If they whatever they want to talk about, I've got people at work just want to talk about the subject. It's interesting because I've got two people at work that. Corey, who works with me, and I've got Elder, who he works on the construction side. And Elder's from Guatemala, and he wants to come on. So those guys are coming on in the next couple of weeks, and we're going to be talking about. Corey is good about dredging up odd stories about things that are happening. Like I said, I like to keep it topical, or at least things that are happening as of late. You know, to keep it rolling. So it's really good to have some people out there to help out in the hobby and that are interested in it, you know?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. Appreciate you joining in. You know,
sure. Thanks for having me.
Glad I didn't have to take a break. I made it all the way through. It has been a bad couple of weeks. I don't, you know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for listening to the latest episode. However, really kind of depressing, but yet it was a celebration of life because Bill was badass. A lot of things that Bill did that I don't think people knew.
Yeah.
We welcome, thanks for listening to the latest episode of the Alien Probe Podcast. We welcome questions, comments, or requests to alienprobepodcast@gmail.com. Visit us on Facebook at Alien Probe Podcast. Check out our website, alienprobe.net. It has all of our episodes. We're on Patreon. Check out our Patreon site. It has the episodes that have fallen off. You can hear us sounding like we're talking inside a can in the beginning. Those are always fun. Twitter at Alien Probe Pod, along with Instagram. YouTube, like and subscribe, Alien Probe Podcast. Thanks again to our senior producer, Robert Anthony. Rest in peace, Dr. Bill. It's been a good ride.
R.I.P. Dr. Bill.